Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this afternoon? Welcome to another edition of Relationships 101. I'm Pastor Edwin Strickland, and I'm here with my super cute wife, Pastor Sean Strickland, and I'm going to let her do all the intro. She was getting some stuff ready because we are ready for an exciting night. So go ahead, babe, and do your thing.
Oh, hey guys, how's everybody doing? You know what we want you to do? We want you to hashtag live. We want you to comment, tell us where you're watching from. If you're watching the replay, if you're on YouTube, say hello. If you're on Facebook, say hello. Pastor Edwin has started doing this thing on Ed Talk with Pastor Strick, where he says, hey, if you're on Facebook, say FB. And if you're on YouTube, say YT. So let us know where you're watching from. And then tag a friend, tag it and share it where you can share it. Listen, Michelle said we're twinning in that blue. See, that's because Pastor Edwin said that we didn't really match on Sunday. So today I was like, I'm going to make us match because he was like, it wasn't.
I said we clashed.
We looked cute on Sunday.
We clashed on Sunday.
We looked cute on Sunday.
I didn't say we didn't look cute. I just said we clashed.
Like, one of the things you should know about Pastor Edwin is that he's like extremely conservative in dress.
Not in my politics, right? Just in my, thank you for saying
he's extremely conservative in his dress. So like matchy is matchy match today. It's for him. And so today, how about that, babe?
She matchy matched with me because I had this on all day.
I did. I matchy matched with
I've been
you.
busy all day, so I did not change.
See, we weren't clashing. We looked so
I didn't say we didn't look good.
You said we was clashing.
The clothes were clashing.
We were not. Y'all, anyway, so listen. We hope you're getting something out of Relationships 101. It is our desire to come together once a month. And we know that a lot of times we do talk about marriage, but how many of you can see that these tools can be used not just for marriage? So let me tell you this. You don't even know this yet, right? One of the things that we've talked about is mastering the art of an apology, right? That's one of our lessons. So I just had to apologize to our oldest son, Chase, because when we were at the when we went out to hear live music on Saturday, I sent him a picture and I said, hey, I need you to edit this picture for me, right? Well, I never heard anything back, right? And so then I tagged him in the family group today. He didn't say anything. So I sent him a message. I'm like, what's up? How do I send you a message on Saturday and you don't even respond to me? He responded back and he was like, what did you say that I didn't respond to? I scroll up and there is the picture.
You didn't hit send?
Huh? No.
Oh.
I didn't see when his thing
he
came
responded
back in. So I'm like talking about why he's not getting my notifications, right? And I clearly don't get his notification. I immediately say, I am so sorry. I apologize. Please forgive me. Next time I will double check, right? So it's not just for marriage, right? It is just owning sometimes that you're the one who blew it. It is operating in trust and respect, even with your kids. What?
Nothing.
What was that? What was that? Because I felt like
this the joy of the Lord. This lets me know that we are growing and becoming, and apologies are things that we have learned to do, and I love it.
No, I feel like it was something else petty. Who else heard him say like that? Because I feel like it was something that was a lot more petty in this moment, right? Anyway, listen, but I apologize. He forgave me. We both hearted each other after the thing. And so we just learned those skills. We learned those skills, right? No, Kristen Whittam said it was definitely the chuckle. Yes, it's definitely this little.
It's the joy of the Lord.
I don't think that was that don't seem like joy of the Lord to me.
Definitely was joy of the Lord.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so listen, we need you guys to share. You should be, if you're on our text list, either for FOC or for Sean Strickland, you should be getting text messages that say, hey, we are live. We know that people are busy. We know it's the first couple of weeks of school. For some people, it's the first week of school. It's the first week of school. So it's okay to need to be reminded. But let me tell you who you ought to get on here. Your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your sister, your brothers, your sisters, everybody that you want, your best friends. everybody that you want to be able to have great relationships with. They just put on the screen for us that if you want to stay in touch with FOC, you can do that by texting FOCINT, which stands for Fellowship of Champions International, to 1-844-387-5122. Right? Dawn says she's getting the message.
Yep.
Listen, Crystal just said, oh, next time she's going to use the joy of the Lord too.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, so we are super excited to be here tonight. And we are going to do something that we think is pretty cool tonight. We hope you think is pretty cool too. We are going to, if you follow me on Facebook, you know that every year I put up whatever year it is that we've been married, that many things that we've learned, that I have learned about marriage, right? And Pastor Edwin, when people sometimes ask him what he's learned, he takes mine, he copies them, he puts them on this page, and he says that he too has learned the things that I have learned. So tonight, we are going to do the 29 things, because we just celebrated our 25th anniversary on August 20th. And we're going to talk about the 29 things that we have learned that make a great relationship, tools for building a great relationship. I'm going to say to you that 90% of these work outside of marriage too.
Absolutely.
They work outside of marriage too. They
Absolutely.
work outside of marriage too. And the truth of it is that we've said this from the very beginning. Love is not enough. Can you put that in the comments, that love is not enough? Have you ever loved someone, but it's incredibly difficult to have a relationship with them? Have you ever loved someone and you had to walk away from the relationship? There are people who love their kids, but they don't get along with their kids. There are people who love their parents, but they don't get along with their parents. There are people that love their siblings, but they don't get along with their siblings. Love is not enough. We must be intentional about building healthy relationships. Mm-hmm. We want to normalize healthy relationships. And one of the things that we just came to understand very early on is that love is not enough. And unfortunately, because we don't get the skills early on to learn how to build functional relationships, right? Like right when they're teaching us our numbers and stuff, they really should be teaching us to do what to do with big feelings and little feelings and anger and all of that different stuff and handling conflict. And so what most of us do is that we end up in these love relationships that are struggling because we don't have the skill set. Now, I'll say this and then I'm going to toss it to you. It's important for us to give up the prideful, arrogant idea that we are going to automatically know how to do relationships well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We need to it is pride that makes us think that just because I love you, that just because you love your kids, that just because you love your mama, that you know what it takes to have healthy relationships. Once we realized that relationships had to be worked on, we became very diligent about working on our relationship. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. In fact, I'm actually amazed as we sit here tonight on the 9th edition or the 9th episode, if you want to call it that, of Relationships 101. It was almost a year ago that I was praying, and the Lord said, it was November of 2022, and the Lord was like, next year, I want you to do Relationships 101. And I was like, what would that look like? He's like, I want you to talk about relationships. And I was like, about marriage? And he was very clear. He said, marriage will be a part of it, but I want you to teach about what it means to function in a relationship. And I was like, man, I'm not even sure, because I'm probably harder on myself than I should be, but I'd rather be harder on myself than not. And I was like, I don't even know if I have enough information to talk to people about what to do in relationships. And literally, as he has laid out the curriculum for these 12 months, January to the end of the year, I'm amazed at literally everything Holy Spirit has taught me. I'm just amazed, because when I was going through it, I'm just trying, in some cases, to survive with you. I'm trying to not have a bad day with you. I'm trying to work on my attitude. I'm trying to work on how I show up. I'm trying to work on how I respond. I'm trying to work on my own issues, and then in doing so, I I've learned so many tools, and I didn't realize how many tools I had learned until I started to go back and just think about even what we've taught since January. And for those of you who haven't been with us all year, you might be a first time visitor. And if so, welcome. If someone invited you and this is your first time coming to Relationships 101, hey, we appreciate you being here tonight. But we've had some amazing topics that we've dealt with. And I want to take a moment and just kind of run through some of those just to think about it. And I want you to think about it. And then you can maybe even tell us which one has been really like maybe the most blessing to you. We started in January talking about blame shifting. And I think that one was one that it got a lot of people really going. And it really set us up for everything else that we've done in Relationships 101. And then in February, we talked about building trust and respect, which is vitally important in so many relationships. You put in some of you put in the group in the comments earlier that you said love is not enough. Well, if love was enough, no one would be divorced, right? But what happens is we lose respect, we lose trust, we tear up the foundation on which love rests, and as a result, then love can't be enough for us. So we talked about the importance of building trust and respect. And then in March, we talked about how to have crucial conversations. And that's probably something we should revisit once a quarter. People need to know how to have crucial conversations. If you don't learn how to say what needs to be said in a manner without going nuclear, then because people can say what needs to be said, but you got to be able to say it without going nuclear. Because if you go nuclear, you may get your point across, but you also tear the relationship up. And it doesn't do any good to not say what needs to be said for the sake of keeping something known as fake peace, right? Because then you just bubble up on the inside and you have all of these issues that you don't get dealt with, which then erodes away your respect and trust for the other person. And then in April, we talked about what you just mentioned, mastering the art of apologizing. And some people
you keep laughing when
because it's this idea of people really have to know how to apologize. A lot of people don't know how to apologize because they can't separate themselves from the thing. And if you can't separate yourself from the thing, when people apologize, it almost feels like it's a part of them being lost. But we talked about how that's not true. And so I hope I've gotten better at apologizing. You would have to be the judge of that. I hope I've gotten better at saying I'm sorry, at saying my bad. Even this morning, when you were holding me accountable for something, I didn't want to say my bad, but I swallowed hard and said you were right. You're right. And so that mastering the art of apologizing again is something that you may want to revisit. And somebody said, well, where do I find all of these? If you go to Edwin and Sean Strickland on Facebook, and the actual URL is facebook.com/campstrick, CampStrick, one word. So if you go to facebook.com/campstrick, you can just click and go to all the live videos. And those live videos live there. And you can go back to January, February, March, April, May. And then in May, we started talking about repairing the breach. Once we've apologized, how do we repair relationships? And that was a really good one. There was a lot of breakthrough on that because people needed to mend some relationships. And people talked about how they went back and mended their relationships with their spouse, with their kids, with their coworkers, with their mom, their dad, brothers and sisters. And that was just a beautiful thing. And then we came back and in June, we talked about unmasking unhealthy relationship dynamics. And a lot of those still exist because people respond to situations based on what they have seen growing up unless they get new information, right? You got to get new information to respond differently. And that's part of what Relationships 101 is all about. Giving you tools, giving you insight and new information so that you can behave and respond differently. We talk about this all the time that in my family and in yours, we didn't have a lot of people who were married, and the ones who were married may not have been the example we wanted to follow, right? I ain't gonna say they were unhappy because I don't know. They didn't seem to be real happy. They didn't seem to be real joyous. And so that's not a situation that we wanted to follow into. And when we found ourselves following into that pattern, we made a decision that we wanted to do something different. And that's what people have to decide tonight. We're going to share some tools with you for building great relationships, but you have to make the decision that you want to implement those and put those into your life, right?
Right.
And then we talked about understanding and establishing healthy boundaries in July, and we followed that up by a great panel discussion last month. We had some of our good friends on, and we were talking about how do you find love again?
Yes.
After heartbreak, after tragedy, after just a breakup, whatever it is, how do you find that love again? And so, listen, if you've missed any of those, you can go to our Facebook page, Edwin and Sean Strickland. It is www.facebook.com/Camp Strick, and you can look at any of those broadcasts.
So we're going to get into this, and I've said this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying it, right? You are not obligated to know everything.
Right.
But you do have a responsibility to learn. You have a responsibility to learn.
Yes.
If you care about having healthy relationships, if you care about enjoying your time with people, you have a responsibility to learn, right? And you need to understand that the learning is ongoing. We've been married for 29 years, and you just said today that you still had to swallow hard to apologize, right? You still had to swallow hard, because the truth of it is there are things based on how we're wired. I say how life wired us, not how God wired us, right? That how life and circumstances wired us, that we may spend a lifetime fighting those primal instincts to defend, to retreat, to pass the blame, to hold grudges, to all of those different things, right? And we have a responsibility. Now, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things for me. I'm going to ask you to engage. I'm going to ask you to share, and I'm going to ask you, we're at 98. Can you get us over 100? I know that it's 2 more people out here who need to know how to live successful relationships. Now, I'm going to say this one other thing, and I don't mean this with any shade, because we were these people. One of the things that I have found is that the people who need the most help won't go get it.
Yep.
And what happens is that somebody said, "Oh, let's celebrate this." Tawanda Cole said earlier, she said, "This has been a community for 9 months."
Yeah.
So that's so amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you that we are going to definitely do a retreat in 2024.
In person.
We're going to do an in-person retreat,
101 retreat.
A Relationships 101 retreat in 2024. In fact, it is my desire that by the time we show up in October, we will have a tentative date. That is my plan that I am working on. We're going to do it. Trina Coleman has been adamant. She is like, "Pastor Sean, I'm not going to let y'all off the hook. We are going to have a retreat." So Trina, get in touch with me, because you can help out with this since you wouldn't let it go. But what I have found is that a lot of people won't do the work until they are in crisis. And we used to be that same way. Severe crisis. Listen, this used to be our cycle in those 3 years that was so crazy. We working hard not to have a bad day. But we really don't have the skill sets to resolve conflict, to work through issues,
to have crucial conversations,
to apologize effectively. We ain't got none of that.
To rebuild trust.
So we don't have any of that, right? So we are the king and queen of going nuclear in a conversation. We are the king and queen of shifting blame, not accepting responsibility. One of us is the king of grudge holding. The other one is the queen of blame shifting. It was never going to be my fault, because at the end of the day, if everyone was a better person, I would not have to say any of the things that I said. And what would happen is we would get
sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster. And what would happen is we would get to this point where both of us were trying to be nice, but we weren't being kind. Right? We were trying to be polite, but we weren't doing kind things.
We were trying not to push the nuclear button.
We were trying not to push the nuclear button, and we would have a big volcanic eruption. And we would feel bad at least within 10 minutes after having it, right? I think it got to the point that at the end we're feeling bad while we're doing it, right? But we don't have the skills to stop. So we keep doing it, right? We're asking God to help
Inflicting
us.
wounds every time.
Inflicting wounds every single time, right? We're asking God to help us. We're doing these things, but we still don't have the skills. And this is what we would say after every big explosion. We would say, we need to get help. We need to get help. And then
and sometimes we'd agree to get help.
We need to get help.
And when we agree to get help, it was like the stress released. And so since the stress released, guess what? We didn't think we needed any help.
You would send me some flowers. I'd fix you some spaghetti because back then that's about what I cooked.
That spaghetti was good.
Right. And listen, so flowers and spaghetti, and we would start this same dysfunctional dance over and over again.
And we didn't even know that was the name of it. We coined that phrase later on, but it was a dysfunctional dance, and we got so proficient at it that we knew if we didn't break the cycle, we'd live there forever.
And let me tell you what the danger in the dysfunctional dance is. The danger in the dysfunctional dance is you've danced it so many times that you can't hear what the other person is saying because you already know what you think they're going to say. Because what has happened is he says this, I say this, he says this, I say this, I say this, he says that. And that begins the cycle. And you have to get some help. You need some Holy Ghost help, right? But you also need some books, some people. And one of the things, some skills.
Tools.
I always say that the first person who really helped me was Sister Deborah King. Listen, most profound thing she ever said to me. She said to me, Sean, when Ellen goes off, you don't have to go off too. I was like, I don't even understand what you mean. Like I honestly did not have a reference point that I could think you were talking crazy to me. And I would not say anything crazy back to you. She was like, just because he yelled, you don't have to yell. Just because he cursed, you don't have to curse. You don't have to do that. And I didn't know what it meant. And she said, would you just practice? And I will never forget the first time I tried to practice. I made it a whopping 13 seconds. I was counting in my head before I got back in there with you. And she did something that changed my life. I called her and I said, I blew it. I said, I only made it 13 seconds. And she said, next time, try to get a little longer. And over time, we got better at that. I got better at that. Right. And then I think one of the most helpful things that we did, because we did get to this point that we weren't nuclear, but we still had things we hadn't fixed. We were just getting along as long as we didn't address those things that we hadn't fixed. And I remember when we connected with the Brazeltons, and one of the things that we came into covenant about is that if we could not resolve it ourselves, we would call them and we would do whatever they told us to do. Because
clearly we didn't know what to do.
Clearly we didn't know. And I think we had two superpowers that really helped us. Is that number one, when we called, we told the whole story. Right? So many times when people call us, they fix it up and they make it pretty and we can't really help. We told the whole story and
we didn't care how ugly it was.
We didn't care how ugly it was. We told the whole story.
And you weren't telling the story trying to make me not look bad. And I wasn't trying to tell the story trying to make you not look bad. We said what it was.
We said exactly what it was.
We said how we said it. And we meant it when we told it to them.
And we meant it when we told it to them. And in fact, we would be so honest sometimes. They would be laughing at us because they would say, who really comes and says it just like this?
We did.
And then the other thing we were really committed to is that we did exactly what they told us to do.
With fidelity.
Because here is what we understood. Our solutions were producing dysfunction.
Mhm.
When we were doing it our own way, we were producing dysfunction. Is this resonating with anybody? And hear me, it's not just marriage. It can be the same dance with your mama, the same dance with your sister, the same dance with a coworker. It is literally like we had to humble ourselves. And I think the reason a lot of people can't fix their relationships is because they care too much about trying to preserve their reputation. We did not care about, we wanted to be married to each other.
And happy.
And happy.
I say that all the time, that when people say that, I don't want to be married 29 years and 27 of them been bad. We said we were going to be married and happy, or we were going to be apart. We were not going to spend years being miserable. But we also understood that we needed to get help. And we also understood that we had to practice. Like any elite athlete, I don't care how good they are, they're practicing. And so no matter how good our marriage is, and it's really, really good.
It's really good.
It's really good. We have to still practice. We have to practice those things that we have learned so that we don't allow those things to be put on the shelf and we revert back to the way we used to behave.
Most people do not practice their relationship.
Relationships don't get better if you don't practice in the relationship.
You have to practice in the relationship.
You have to practice.
So we're going to talk to you about 29 things that we have learned. 29 things. Are y'all ready? If you're ready, I need some hearts. I need some fire. I need some we ready, because we are ready. So, number one, this is about growth in relationships. All solid relationships demand emotional growth. If you're not ready to evolve, your connection and your commitment may stagnate. Now, this is the thing. The marriage part is the thing that I actually say on my post. I say marriage is for sure for grown folks. If you aren't willing to grow up in love, it won't work. I love it. Shamari said they brought their whole friend group. Thank you for that, Shamari. Listen, if you aren't, marriage is for grown folks.
Can you put that in the comment section? You may not want to be married. You may be married. You may be thinking about being married, but everybody needs to know that marriage is for grown folks.
I did not say people who were legal.
Right.
I said grown folks. Marriage is for grown folks. And if you are unwilling to grow, your marriage will not either.
And here's the thing you have to think about in terms of this. We got married when we were 22 years old.
We was babies.
We were 22 years old when we got married. We knew each other for 6 months and 13 days, from the day I laid eyes on you to the afternoon you walked down the aisle. It was 6 months and 13 days, and we were 22 years old. If you don't think that we both had a whole lot of growing to do in the last 30 years, you don't think I've changed, you don't think you've changed. So not only does love have to grow, you have to be understanding enough in any relationship to understand that the relationship's going to grow. The relationship's going to change. Your relationship's going to evolve. That don't mean you have to grow apart. We just had to learn to grow with the relationship.
Yes,
and absolutely. I think that is so important for people to understand, whether it's about marriage, whether it's about friendships. When you're raising your kids, and those kids are 5, 6, and 7 years old, your interaction with them is not going to be the same when they're 25. One of the things that's probably the hardest for me with our adult children is letting them sometimes make their own mistakes. It's like, I can tell you that what you're doing is not going to work out for you. It's not going to be successful, but you're not 5 anymore. I can't do it for you. I can't stop you. Well, the same thing is true in our relationships. There are things that I wouldn't say or do now at 29 years of marriage that I did say or do in year 4 when I shouldn't have been saying it. So those things are important.
That's really, really good. So number one, is that marriage is for grown folks.
Mhm.
All right, number two.
Number two, and this is how she said it. If you've ever read any of those posts that she posts every year, it's about the power of forgiveness. And we talk about forgiveness a lot because, even on my Ed talk last week, the topic was forgiveness as a tool for healing. If you learn in a relationship, any relationship, to actually forgive, that forgiveness not only sets you free, the main thing, it has a wonderful healing balm in which to draw the person back to you if it's sincere in a relationship is supposed to be. And so we talk about the power of forgiveness. And here's how you say it in your thing. You say, marriage takes lots of forgiveness. Amen to that, somebody.
Amen. Somebody say amen to that.
Two imperfect people will find a way to do something that irritates, frustrates, angers, or hurts the other, but we must learn to forgive.
Learn to forgive.
Because no matter how wonderful you are, and you are wonderful, no matter how great you are, and you're great, sometimes you irritate the heck out of me.
What?
Sometimes you frustrate me. Sometimes you anger me.
I don't even understand.
No matter how great
so
you are.
sweet.
That's why I wanted to do number two instead
So
of having you
sweet.
do it.
I know you did. Like,
Listen.
you're so. I'm about to upgrade
relationship.
Pastor Edwin from just being petty to being shady. To just be petty to
Listen,
being
I gave
shady.
you all those compliments first. All those compliments. But there are times because of my own issues. How about that? I get irritated and frustrated and angered with you, okay?
Well, you are the husband. You should be more like Jesus.
You're right. I got work to do.
Shandele. Uh-huh.
Listen, in any relationship, we will err. Is that not right?
That is absolutely
In
true.
any relationship, we will err. And learning to forgive keeps bonds strong. We both, and we don't even have to share them, but we both have funny stories about how something happened and we came down hard on the other person. But then we turned around later on and we erred, right? And what a wonderful thing that when that happened, we didn't come down hard on each other again. We learned that, hey, everybody makes mistakes, okay? Everybody makes mistakes.
So put that in the comments. Everybody makes mistakes, including me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody makes mistakes, including me. I just learned this about myself the other day. It didn't even have anything to do with you. It was about friendships, right?
Okay.
I learned that it is very, very easy for me to forgive and restore someone that is not close to me.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that. Like, listen, if we're not that close, you do something that hurt me, I'm like, oh, girl, it's fine. God bless you, move on. But one of the things I learned that I think I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, is that in order not to turn my love off for you,
Mm-hmm.
I just created distance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there, but I'm not fully there,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, I would say, I always want to love you. I always want to love you. I don't want to not love you. So if I feel like it's not safe to talk to you about this thing or that thing, then what I do is I just put that little thing in a little box,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that was really dangerous because in truth, I wasn't, maybe, I don't think I would say I wasn't forgiving you. I would say I didn't know what to do with you after I had forgiven you.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do. And I had to learn, right? Shamari says, I just explained him to the T. Listen, I had to learn how to say. Now, let me tell you what I think it also was. I think it was because I didn't know how to say something hurt me. That, like you, we really only dealt in happy.
Yeah.
And mad, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know. And I'll be honest with you. I felt like telling you that something hurt me gave you an upper hand.
Yeah, because you saw it as a form of weakness.
Absolutely.
You phrased it that it gives me the upper hand, but the reality of it is you felt like if you said I hurt you, then you somehow were going to be weak. And then in your weakness, I was going to take advantage. But that's how you got there, though.
Pretty much.
So no, not pretty much. That's how you got there. And that's fine. Because for me, it was just that, hey, if you hurt me, then I lower my expectation of you. And so when I lowered my expectation of you, then every time you did something to hurt me, you just went down further and further on the list. And when I lowered my expectation, I actually started to care less. And that was the dangerous part for me, because I was caring less. You say you weren't being vulnerable enough to tell me that I was hurting you. So I felt like you was doing what you was doing because you didn't care and I couldn't hurt you. So it became this vicious cycle back and forth.
Does anybody understand this?
And that's
your
why,
cycle.
but
yes,
but that's why you had to practice this thing of forgiveness. And somebody asked the question about perceived offenses. And here's the thing: what I had to learn was that if I was offended by something you did, a level of maturity requires me to ask you if that was your intent. The onus wasn't on you because I perceived it. I had to ask you if that was your intent. And if you explained to me it wasn't your intent, now my maturity had to say, okay, do I know you to be a liar? If I didn't know you to be a liar, even if I felt like what you did was offensive, but you told me it wasn't, I had to put my big boy pants on and say, okay, I accept the fact that I perceived it wrong. And once I learned to do that, then I didn't have all this angst towards you all the time by something that you did. And I think that's the thing people have to learn to fix in relationships, not just marriage, but that's with coworkers, it's with family members, with people you go to church with your friends. You have to have the maturity that if something happens, that you don't automatically deduce that that's what it was. You have to ask the question, because that's part of having crucial conversations. That's what we talked about in March, having crucial conversations.
You should go back and listen to March, right? Listen, like, and everybody needs to understand that takes maturity.
It does.
And
practice.
Let me say something to the people who consider themselves to be super spiritual. Like, you spend a lot of time praying in the Holy Ghost and in your closet and stuff. Praying in your closet and living with people, not the same thing.
Man, it ain't.
And when you praying in your closet, ain't nobody there but you and the Lord, and He perfect. Okay? It is what we do when we come out of it. And that's what happens in the church a lot of time. People learn how to get good at doing spiritual things, but not getting something out of that spiritual thing that's going to cause them to change how they show up with the person. And let me just say this to you. There are many of you that your family, the reason they don't receive from you is they perceive you as being a really spiritual person who cannot take any ownership of their bad mistakes. You can pray in the Holy Ghost and then you can still tell them that they nothing. You can pray in the Holy Ghost, but you can't forgive. And those things really, 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 really matter. And so if we as people in the body of Christ, because I assume that everybody's listening to us at least know something about Jesus, or they wouldn't be listening to us, right? It is so important that we take ownership. That's why it was so important to me that when I realized I was wrong with Chase, I needed to immediately apologize. That was not the time for me to talk about the other times he hadn't responded, because in that time he had responded. Right. And I needed to own that I was the one who didn't scroll up and that I was the one who missed it. Now, let me tell you something that I love about this, because I think it gets into number 3, but we're going to keep talking this example. Choosing peace. Sometimes maintaining harmony is more essential than inserting a point. In marriage, it will require you to say, I'm sorry, even when you aren't wrong. Sometimes you choose peace over being right. Yeah. Now, we're not saying every time, but one of the things that I think
you got to choose which, I say it like this, you got to choose which hill you're going to die on. You got to choose which battle. I think something very simple that goes along with this, and don't lose your point, but I jumped in because you had paused, but something that I think people need to understand, something that really, really works for us, it comes down to who does it matter the most to? Who, and what I mean by that is, if something happened and it really bothers me, but it's not that big a deal to you, well, instead of trying to assert that it's not that big a deal to you, What's wrong with just saying, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that upsets you. What could I have done different? Because why? We're choosing peace. I'm not saying every time, right? But there are some things that's just not that big a deal to me. There are some things that's just not that big a deal to you. There are some things that are a big deal to you. There are some things that are a big deal to me. When you live with someone and you get to know those things, sometimes you just got to make the decision. Do I want to be right or do I want to preserve the sanctity of the relationship?
Well, and I think that that's so important because that's another maturity.
Sure.
The truth of it is, I want y'all to hear what I'm about to say. If you don't do these things well, you're undeveloped in the fruit of the spirit.
Yeah.
Because we've given all of these things, we've given these things cute names that you could teach at a secular marriage conference. But at the end of the day, this is about, if I can't keep my mouth closed, if I can't apologize, I am simply, if I can't believe the best about you, I am undeveloped in the fruit of the spirit. Right. So I was going to say, in keeping with what you said, one of the things that you would say to me is, is this how you meant it?
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you were working yourself through it. And I would say, no, that's not how I meant it. And you would say, I don't know you to be a liar. That was your reset point. That was your reset point.
Now, if you with somebody and you know them to be a liar,
then you got to get something else.
You got to do something.
You got to get something else.
You got to do something different.
You know them to be a liar.
But I didn't know you to be a liar. So I would ask you, and it probably wasn't always in the best of tones, but I was trying to get, I'm like, is that how you meant that?
Now that's how you really said it. See, listen, wait, no. What he was doing for y'all, what he was doing for y'all first was cute.
I'm not trying
this how he really said it. This how he really said it. Say how you said it,
I'm not trying to put on
how you said it.
I would say, all right, now is that how you meant that? Because I wanted to know if that's how you meant it, then I'm probably freaking to fail the test. But I'm praying that you tell me it's not what you meant, so I could pull myself back so we could do a reset. But part of the maturity for me was learning to pause long enough to at least ask that, because in previous to that, it wasn't even an ask. It was just an assumption that you talking crazy to me. And if you talking crazy to me, then I'm about to talk crazy to you. And that was not productive, right?
Listen, y'all give us some hearts and fire. Y'all
so transparent. I don't know what else to be besides transparent.
Because how can we help you? How can we help you if we just say, hey, we have a great marriage now. We owe you to tell you about the times that we didn't. We owe you to tell you about. That doesn't mean we have to tell you all our business.
Right.
But we owe you to say that there are some times
that we didn't get it right.
That we did not get it right. And there are still some times that we don't get it right. So this keeps going. You said something here. You talked about if we want to keep the peace, right? Then who does it matter most to?
Mm-hmm.
Who does it matter most to? I have this little thing that is not a big deal to you at all, but it is huge to me. You cannot toss my stuff to me. I can't stand. If I give you a pen, do not toss that pen back to me. If I let you wear my sweatshirt, do not toss yours. You walk it back to me. That is a big deal. Now, Pastor Edwin has this thing because he don't really share his side. Okay. Now I'm gonna just tell our business. So at least 3 times a week, I come in the room and Pastor Strickland is laying across the bed on my side. I mean, he's not laying vertically, he's laying parallel, so he's on my side. So I can't even get in the bed or sit on the bed because he's laying on my side. Now he does this, baby, like clockwork. He go lay on my side of the bed. But I literally will put something on his side of the bed to see if he can make it 5 minutes without moving it. I want you to know in 29 years, he has never made it 5 minutes. He has never made it 5 minutes. But what he used to do was toss it. Now, if you toss my stuff, now I'm triggered.
You're triggered, yeah.
But you learn that that's a really big deal for me. Mm-hmm. So you will toss it sometimes, and as you're tossing it, you'll say,
I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Oh, I'm
My
sorry.
bad, my
I didn't
bad.
mean to
I
do
didn't mean
that.
to
My
toss your
bad.
stuff."
Because I can't stand for nobody to toss my stuff. Don't you talk? You toss your own stuff. Don't you toss my stuff. Now, how do we get that? That's to number 4.
Yeah.
Effective communication.
Mhm.
We are learning, practicing effective communication, right?
Because you have to talk about the issues that are going on with your spouse or the people you're in a relationship with. You have to talk about those issues. If you didn't tell me that, I don't know why that's a trigger for you, and it doesn't even matter the why.
I can tell you why.
You don't have to.
But I want to tell you why.
Hold on a second.
I want to. Oh, okay.
Hold on a second.
I want to tell you why. I want everybody to know why.
The why isn't even important. What was important was that it was something you asked me not to do. And so even though I have a habit of tossing things when it comes to your thing, if I forget, at least I can say I'm sorry. And then you have to then judge my heart to know that it's not something I did intentionally, right?
Yes.
All right, tell us why, baby.
It's disrespectful. You don't throw nobody's stuff. And you know what I really can't stand? I can't stand when somebody borrow your stuff and then throw it back at you. Because typically when somebody toss your stuff, it's because you asked for something back that's yours. So now my sweatshirt funky. Now my $20 is funky. It's disrespectful. Don't throw my stuff.
So don't throw her stuff. So we have to learn to talk about this.
Marriage demands that you learn to communicate. Mm-hmm. And I want all of y'all to hear this. Just because you're talking don't mean you communicate.
That's true.
Just because you're talking does not mean you're communicating, right? Communication is about learning to use language that your spouse, your kids, your mama, your friends understand, and learning to actively listen and not think about your response.
And that's a skill. You have to practice.
Oh, that's a skill.
Because if you're listening to someone talk and you are thinking of your response, just because you're being quiet doesn't mean you're actively listening.
Does not.
Just because you're not saying anything doesn't mean you active listening is not silent listening. Active listening is actually listening for the point of understanding. And you can't do that if you're formulating what you're about to say next.
And typically when people are angry, when they're frustrated, when they're triggered, they're not going to do those things well.
Yep. So you got to practice.
So you have to practice that. Okay, number 5. Y'all getting something out of this tonight? I don't think we're going to make it all these.
We won't. We don't have to make it all of them. They can go and read them. But number 5 is about seeking support. We kind of talked about that. We talked about how when we were struggling through that, we found a support system in Pastor Tony and Pastor Cynthia, who we trusted. We found other married couples who were doing it the right way, and we asked them questions, and then we took their advice and actually did it right. So again, this idea of seeking support in marriage, you're going to have to learn.
You're not going to say it right.
Oh, you say it then.
Marriage will teach you how to pray, because if the Lord doesn't help you, you will fail or end up in jail. You weren't gonna say it right. You listen. Man, I'm telling you, marriage will teach you how to pray, because if the Lord don't help you, you're gonna fail. You're gonna get divorced, or you're gonna end up in jail. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
Which one you going to next? You ain't got to go in order. Which one you want to go to?
Number 9. Let's do number 9. We're skipping to number 9.
Let's skip to number 9.
We're going to do 9 and 10 and 11.
Okay.
9, 10, and 11. All right. Number 9.
Which will be our number 9. So I'll post these in the Edwin and Sean Facebook page, and you'll have all 29. But we ain't going to talk about all 29 because we had 51 minutes.
Because we had 51 minutes. We're not going to make it. Right. So focus on the larger joys. Mm-hmm. Let minor annoyances slide. Marriage will teach you not to sweat the small stuff, and most of it is small stuff. Yeah. Marriage will teach you not to sweat the small stuff, and most of it is small stuff.
Yeah.
Say lot.
The idea of letting the minor annoyances slide, because you may be thinking you're doing a really big deal in letting these minor annoyances slide, but you've got some minor annoyances too.
I think that's the thing people miss.
It is a thing.
I think that's really the thing that people miss.
It is.
and it's because
you think you're doing something because you're letting it slide. But how many times does somebody have a lot of people let you? Because don't you think for a moment you're not annoying. Because you are to somebody.
No.
To
I
somebody.
think that people really don't get that. People are like, it's so annoying when you do this, right? but you're annoying too.
It's like that time I told you, we were talking about something. And I said, well, everybody don't like you. And you was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, everybody don't like you. There are people who don't like you. Not that they matter, not that they should know any of that stuff, but there's somebody who don't like all of us. And just like there's people who don't like all of us, we are an annoyance to people, just like people are annoyance to us. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, whatever. I'm going to this comment. I think your name is Avy. I love what she just said. I think it's Avy. She said, I feel like I'm not annoying. I'm going to tell you, if you feel like you're not annoying,
you're probably super.
You're probably super annoying.
I'm sorry. I ain't trying to be funny.
No, you're
but
probably
if you don't feel like you're annoying, you're probably super annoying.
And let me tell you why. I think she's joking because she got I think she's joking too.
That's why I'm joking with her.
No, I'm joking with her. But I want to say this because it's some of y'all who don't feel like you're annoying.
And you're not joking.
And you're not joking.
Right.
And I need you to know the fact that you don't feel like you're annoying is the reason that you're real annoying, because number 11 says that you have to be self-reflective.
Yes.
You have to be self-reflective. And this is what people will do, right? People will do this right here. They will be like, they don't know that they slurp, but they know you smack.
Yeah.
That's what people do in relationships.
We know you were joking.
We know. No, but I'm saying so I'm so aggravated that you smack. Mm-hmm. And every time we go somewhere, I'm feeling some kind of way because you smack it.
But every time you eat, you hitting that.
I'm slurping.
Or you hitting that fork on your teeth. Where you hit, it's like, why are you dinging on your teeth with that deadgum fork? So we know other people are annoyances, but we don't recognize our own.
But we don't recognize our own. And we don't work to get. Now it's funny because I always say this. I'm gonna tell a cute little story about one of our little guy grandbabies. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, I grew up in the 70s and 70s and 80s, and here's what I always say: the benefit of being a Gen Xer is that nobody let you think you were perfect. Mm-hmm. When you was a Gen Xer, people told you that your head was big, your feet was big, you was light skinned, whatever said.
It was about you.
So the other week, my little baby, he had got crosshairs with me, and he was a little salty with me, and he didn't want to make up yet because he is a little bit of a grudge holder. But let me just say this: he's just 5, so I give him a lot of grace, right? And so as he is trying to decide how to get me back in a way that's not going to get him in trouble.
Because you had told on him, and he felt like you telling on him was really kind of a breach of y'all relationship, or to some degree he wasn't happy, whatever it was that you had told his parents on him.
But I had only told on him because he had told me he was going to tell his mama on me.
He did.
So I just wanted to make sure that his mama and daddy knew the full story, but he didn't like it. Here's the point.
He didn't like it.
So as we standing there, baby, what'd he do?
He looked around. It was about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 of us outside. And he looked around and he said, somebody out here got some fat legs.
He was big mad at Sean. He was big mad at Sean.
He was big mad.
And I said to him, I'm going to let you slide because you're a little kid, because you don't know you got a big head. See, notice I didn't really let him slide, right? And I think the reality of it is that many of us never grow up past that 5-year-old stage. Mm-hmm. So we know all the things that other people do wrong. Mm-hmm. You know all the things that your spouse doesn't do well. And I really do believe, I remember when the Lord was turning our relationship around and he said, Sean, every day that you get up, I want you to make a list of the things that you love about Edwin. The truth of it is if you are in relationships with people, you should be reminding yourself about why you love them and what you like about them. Because again, people are going to blow it. People are going to mess up. But if all you have at the top of mind is everything that's wrong with them, mm-hmm. It is going to be incredibly difficult to forgive them. It's going to be incredibly difficult to believe the best about them. That is why the thing that I love that you used to say to me is, I don't know you to be a liar. Right. So if you say you did not mean to offend me, I have to take mm-hmm. this as true.
I choose to take
I
it as
choose
true.
to take this
I
as true.
choose.
Now I want to do this one right here
So
too.
go ahead. So we'll talk about this here. And again, these are just tools. And like I said, we'll post all 29 of these in the group. So if you don't go to our page, you may not be able to access them. But if you go to our page, you'll be able to access them. But we're going to talk about another tool, and this is a tool you want to talk about. This really is important, and it's number 10 on our list.
Marriage will teach you that you are powerless to change another person.
Did you hear that? That's true about any
Marriage
relationship,
will
really.
teach you that you are powerless to change another person.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have the power or the right to change another person. Now, some of you think that you have. Let me tell you what you have the ability to do. You have the ability to modify somebody's behavior as long as they are willing to allow their behavior to be modified.
Mm-hmm.
But you do not have the power to change another person.
Yep.
And I really believe that we have this tendency as human beings to want to change other people instead of spending that energy improving ourselves. We don't have the power to change. I can only change me. I can change myself, and I can decide. I made a post yesterday that said something like this: I respect your right not to change, and I respect my right not to stay.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have the right to make you change. I have the right to say, this is what's necessary for me. And if you are not willing to do it, then I can't be here.
So why do you think so many people stay in relationships, whether they be romantic relationships, family relationships? And while I'm not saying you can disown your family, you can put distance between you and those people if the relationship is dysfunctional. But why do you think people then choose to stay in relationships with the idea or the thought that they're going to change another person? I've heard women, I mean, I'm not just women, but I've heard women say, oh, I can change it.
I've heard more women say it than men.
Yeah, I don't hear a lot of
I
men
don't
say
hear a
I can
bunch of men
change
say
her.
that.
I hear a lot of men say I can lock her down, you know. But I don't hear a lot of men say that. But I do hear a lot of women say, oh, I can change him, or I see the potential in him. I can change. Why? Where does that come from?
So many things. I think pride. I think it comes from pride. I think it takes a lot of arrogance to think that you have the right, the ability, and the power to change another human being.
Because we've talked to married couples where they said, well, I knew he did this when we got married, but I thought he would change, or I could change him after we got married. And then they're upset that the person didn't change. But we don't have control over other people.
Or like, he's a man who already has 2 kids that he doesn't take care of. And you somehow think your cookies is good enough that he go stay for your baby.
For your baby.
He ain't stayed for nobody else baby, but now he's gonna stay for your baby. And then he does the same thing to you that he did to the last 2 baby mamas. At that point, you should say, my father used to say this all the time. Many of you have heard me say this. My father was a hustler. I got a lot of siblings, 17, 18 of us, a bunch of different baby mamas, all this different stuff. And my father used to say this all the time. He used to say, Sean, I never had to lie to a woman because she lied to herself. He said, because every woman always thought they could make me better. Every woman always thought they could love me enough to get me to be somebody different.
He said, I didn't have to lie.
I didn't have to lie because they lied to themselves. Because everybody, and this is what he said to me. Wow. He used to say this to me all the time. He used to say, don't deceive yourself into believing you are more special than you are. Now, and this is what else he told me, because OJ had some good game. Now I'm just gonna tell you, this ain't one of my points, but I'm finna help you women. I'm finna help y'all. He proof over here. My daddy used to say that a man who really picks you, you'll never have to ask him to change, because he'll want to be better for you. Yeah. He will want to be better for you. Over the years, this is what I have learned, that the Bible says that a man has a helpmate. And if you say something to a man and nothing in him wants to get better because you said it, You ain't it.
You're not the one.
You ain't it.
You're not his one.
You may be nice.
You may be somebody's one.
You may be somebody's one, but you're not his one.
Yeah,
and women really hate to set women really because women have been conditioned. And this goes way back to years ago when women had to be picked in order to be provided for, and all of this stuff that women have had to do. So we've been conditioned. We can cook enough, we can twerk enough, we can do all these things enough, we can take care of somebody's kids good enough to be picked. But one of the things that women need to learn about men is that if a man will not upgrade for you, you are not his voice.
That's real talk, though.
You're not his voice.
That's real talk, though.
You're not his voice.
I don't know a happily married man who wasn't happy about changing for the woman that he loved.
The truth of it is,
I don't know one.
You can take a man with no gumption.
Yeah.
He find the right one. He find gumption. Why? Because he loved her enough that he not
to get some gumption.
He loved her enough to go get him some gumption.
Yeah.
I will never, ever, 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 ever forget this in our relationship. And this is what I always say. I say, if you could do this at 22, I expect every man to do this.
Yeah.
There are 2 moments in my life where I go, this is a winner and he's your winner and you better pick him.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Tell the people about it.
The first
Tell the people about it. Come on.
The first one is this. I'm on the phone with you because you live in Conway and I live in Northwest Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
And I call you one morning early.
Yep.
You probably don't even remember this. And you ask me why I'm up so early. And I say, because the sun comes in my window.
I remember.
And you came to see me that weekend. You came in, you kissed me, you went upstairs to my room, you took a tape measure, and you said, get in the car, and you took me to Walmart, and you bought and installed a black blind because you said you did not like that the sun woke me up.
Child, we'll talk about me. Talk about me. Listen, I didn't want your sleep being disturbed. You needed your beauty rest, and I wanted you to get it. And so all week, I thought about how you were sleeping with the light coming in your face. And if I could have figured out a way to get up there during the week.
If it had been an Amazon?
Listen, I'd have ordered Amazon and called an installer and had it installed for you. But since I couldn't, I had to wait till the weekend. Because you was the one.
The second thing.
Come on, tell me about number 2.
The second thing, I was sick. You lived in Conway, 3 hours away. I was sick. I told you I didn't feel good. I hadn't even gone to work that day.
Had a raspy voice, I remember.
I did. I had a raspy voice. And you showed up at my house after you worked at 11 p.m. and brought me cough medicine.
Drove the pig trail
You
at night. Because I did not want you to have to be sick no more. I wanted to get you that chicken noodle soup. And I had class the next morning.
At 8:30.
At 8:30 next
you
morning.
had class in Conway the next morning. So this is what I say to women, and women don't like it.
Talk to them about it.
If that dude like you, but you got to go see him, he playing you. You ain't it. I don't care how you cooking, how you twerking, how you sucking. I don't care.
This some relationship at the dark.
No,
you done said cooking and sucking. Jesus.
I'm telling you. No, I'm serious. Because
my God.
Because the language for women, for godly women, it is either we gotta pray enough, we gotta do all of this stuff. For secular women, it's you gotta shake it enough, you gotta twerk it enough, you gotta spin around. Baby, you can do all of that stuff, but if you ain't it, and here is the thing that gets me, and a lot of women get hurt by this. You will give a dude 5 years of your life.
Let him date you to death.
You will let him date you or marry you and not treat you well. And he will meet somebody that is the one. And it'll be just like in Harlem Nights when he say, tell your mother I ain't never coming home. And I really do believe this. I believe this. I know if you could pick where we're going next, but let me tell you what I really do believe. I believe that it is so imperative that women choose wisely, because in the kingdom of God, I am going to put myself under you. I'm going to put my life in your hands.
Yeah.
And I think some of y'all not going to like this, but my grandmama used to say, don't you
buy no man.
Oh, no. My grandma
she had a bunch of sayings.
My grandma had a bunch of sayings about men. But one of the things my grandma used to say, the most dangerous thing is for a woman to marry a man that she loves more than he loves her. She said, because whoever loves the most is going to carry the weight of the relationship.
And I think what happens is people have to be careful with that.
I know you go fix it.
No, I believe that. But I'm a little old school. I believe a man ought to love his wife more than she loves him, if that's such a thing, because Jesus clearly loves us more than we love him. And he said that the representation of a man and a woman in marriage should be like him, like the church, right? Jesus loved the church so much, he died for the church. Okay, then a man should represent his wife in that same manner. So I don't have an issue with what your grandmother said. My issue is when people start trying to play games with each other about who loved the most, because then it turns into something totally different.
That's not what that means.
That turns into something totally different.
All right, if y'all got something from that little sidebar that really wasn't on our notes anywhere, can you give us some hearts and some fire? Okay,
Amen.
give them three more.
So here's two I want to share.
Okay, two you want to share.
One of the ones I want to share is on our list is number 21. Okay, and it's about seeing beyond actions. Okay. You have to focus when you're in relationships. You have to focus on the deeper emotions and intentions, even when actions may seem hurtful. And here's what I mean: I don't mean you ignore it, but there are times that I've done things to you that I didn't mean to do, but you understand my heart intention wasn't to hurt you. I use the example of the time that you left and went out of town. And I thought I was going to do something really, really nice for you by rearranging the whole house, because we had talked about it before. But I did it without your permission. I did it without you being involved. And I redid the furniture and all that stuff. And when you came home, you were not happy.
I was not happy.
You were not happy that I had worked. I had worked all weekend and had the kids involved and everything. And you came home and basically crapped on it. Now, not because you wanted to, it's just not what you were expecting. In that moment, you had to then realize, though, that I didn't do that to try to hurt you.
Right.
I didn't do that. So there are times in relationships you have to look beyond some actions and actually see people's intent. One of the things you said is marriage will teach you to see a person's heart even when their actions come up short. And I think that's so important in relationships, because people are quick to throw people away nowadays. They throw friends away, they throw family away, they throw relationships away. And I think that if you're going to be in a relationship with another human being, you have to understand, just like we said, everybody's going to err, everybody's going to make mistakes. Sometimes people are going to do things and their action isn't going to line up with what you know is in their heart. And you have to be able to see past that and forgive that.
I think that's really good. And I think that on the other side of that, because you are so meticulous about things, that there have been times that you had to give me the benefit that I didn't overlook a detail. I'm just not wired. I'm better now, but I wasn't wired that way, right? And I wasn't trying to create more work for you. I wasn't trying to not think through the process. Yeah. I just saw things differently.
Yeah.
I just saw things differently. Yeah. Right.
And I think the second one, and we can be done after this, is this idea that every relationship needs a continuous investment. It's number 23 on our list, right? Every relationship needs a continuous investment. I think the language we used to use is about making love deposits or keeping your love tank full. But not just love tank, it's the idea that, man, if I want this relationship to grow with you, if I want my relationship to grow with the people in our church, if I want my relationship to grow with my kids, I have to make an investment. I can't just make a withdrawal from those relationships all the time. And so one of the things you say in our list is his marriage will teach you that working on your marriage is a lifetime investment, not a part-time fling.
It's a lifetime investment.
Not a part-time fling.
I'm gonna give,
and that's true of every relationship. Every relationship needs consistent nurturing and attention.
It absolutely does. So I'm gonna use two examples from that right there.
Okay.
One is about Canaan. So Canaan is the only kid at home.
Yep.
Right. And so because Canaan is the only kid at home, she really needs more attention than we usually give her, because last year she got a lot of attention from Jordan too, right?
She did.
So things like this. She gets out of school early on Wednesday, and last Wednesday she said to me, "Can we spend time together?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "What do you want to do?" And she says, "I don't care. I just want to do something." And I said, "Well, I have some errands to run. Do you want me to wait on you?" She said, "Yes." So now this investment,
that's an investment in the relationship.
It's an investment, because the truth of it is that normally I'm just used
you
to
could have been, you could have ran those errands and been done before she got done. Right.
But it was important to her, right. So I saved all three of my errands so that we could run them together. For you, it's really important that at the end of the day, Kana wants to come in and she wants to lay in the bed beside you, on my side. You see how these people in the family really like my side of the bed? She wants to lay in your side. And the crazy thing is, maybe she talks to you 20 minutes. Maybe she talks to 20 minutes. Then
she turns over the opposite way and gets on her phone, but she's in the room with you.
No. Then she goes to sleep.
Yes.
Because most days she's on
her phone, then she goes to sleep.
She's on the phone, and then she goes to sleep. Right? And so part of my investment is to allow her to do that. Mm-hmm. It's to say, listen, I know she want to stay in here to 10:30. So even if I'm ready to go to bed, listen, I'm going to let her stay till 10:30 unless I don't feel well or something. And then it's your thing to say to her, like, what's the thing that she told you to stop saying because she doesn't like when you say it?
When I talk about being an empty nester?
Yes.
She doesn't like that I count down the days to being an empty nester. I haven't done that. Once she told me it bothered her, I stopped.
Because she said that she felt like you were trying to rush her last year away. And you made the investment to hear her. You didn't just go, "Oh, well, we had kids since we 22, since we was 23, and whatever." You said, "I hear that, and I won't do that again because I don't want to negatively impact you."
I still know how many days.
But hope she not listening.
I just don't say it anymore.
And then the thing that I would say is that, like last year on our vacation, I did a lot of stuff out of my comfort zone for you.
You did. So much so that if you notice, I haven't planned a bunch of excursions.
Oh, because this vacation, baby, you gonna lay at this pool with me on this vacation.
I already know.
I'm out in the cenotes. I'm out in the dune buggy. I'm out in the
speedboat, the zip lining. You did it all.
I did it all. So this vacation, it's going to be the vacation that I need.
This is the slow vacation.
It's the slow vacation, right? So listen, we're going to stop here because we're going to post them. Does anybody have any questions? I noticed some people earlier asked some questions. They're on my page. They're on Pastor Edwin's page. And before the night is over, they will be on the Edwin and Sean Strickland page. But does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask that maybe in this last 15 minutes that we could help you with? Now, I want you to be clear. If you don't ask questions, we just going to say goodbye because we don't just have to hang on in order to hang on, right? So if you have any questions, if you ask a question earlier and we didn't get it to you, then go ahead and give it to us now. And I know it takes a little bit of a delay for you to type your questions.
All of them going to come in at one time.
They're going to all come in at one time, right?
We'll try to navigate these.
She said we both do her kind of vacation.
Yeah. I don't mind the vacation where you just kind of wake up in the morning, go to the pool and stay there all day. I don't and read a book. I don't mind that.
Bring a book.
But I do like activities.
Well, we're going back to the same place we went to last time, so you know those activities.
Kind of a different place. Same area.
Activities in the same places, right? Yeah.
I didn't book a bunch of things for you to do.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, we did the cooking class last time.
I did everything you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And this time we go lay at this pool. Okay, so I assume nobody has any questions.
No, I don't see none.
I don't see any questions.
It's been more than 12. Okay, here's one. Okay, how do you get past someone throw your stuff back at you? Oh, she said, how do you get past?
How do you get past someone throw your stuff back at you? No, I don't throw stuff back.
How do you get over it?
I just tell people I don't like that.
Okay.
Now I'm much better at how I say I don't like it, right? But I say I don't like that.
Okay.
I'll say to you, do
you
you
communicate?
I say, do you realize?
You use your
Yes.
words.
Do you realize that you threw my stuff?
Yeah.
And mostly you say no, right? Oh, we got a couple of good questions.
Okay,
all right, let's pull this question up.
There's
Go
one.
ahead. My question is, what do you do when your husband does not want to communicate or talk about anything? So for me, when you're not angry, I think you need to say to your spouse, one, you need to find out, why does your spouse not want to communicate or talk about anything, right? Like, is it trauma from their past? Did they see violence growing up? Did they see any reason? But the other thing that I would say is that we've learned to say things like this: it's really important to me that we do this. And when you won't do it, it says that you don't think I am important.
Yeah.
Right? So not when you're upset, but I think you need to say, I really want us to have an amazing marriage. And when we don't resolve these issues or we don't talk about us, that hurts my feelings, and it suggests to me that you don't really care about our relationship.
And then you have to, and then if, I know that there have been women who've told their husband those things, so we've told them to, and those husbands still haven't done anything different. Well, then you got some decisions you have to make, right? I mean, if you tell somebody that not doing a certain thing shows you don't value me, and they continue to do what they're doing, then they kind of told you something there. And so you have to then, hear what they're saying in that as well.
So then I think you suggest going to counseling. And I think at some point here's the thing, people don't like this. At some point you have to decide, is this a big enough hill to die on, right? Am I okay with a marriage where we don't communicate? Or do we need an intervention? And if he refuses to get an intervention, then I got to deal with the fact that maybe this is not the relationship. And I know that that's a hard thing for people to admit. Okay, right.
And to navigate. Which goes along with the next question, which is, Monica says, I stay too long. How do you know when it's time to let go? How do you know?
I think most people know. I really do. I think people know. I think people don't want to admit what they know because they love the person. And I will say this a lot of times in relationships. A lot of times people don't want to admit a relationship is over because they don't want to seem like they failed. They want the win more than they want the relationship, right? But every time I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, should I leave Edwin? He was like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Don't you lead it, boy.
Don't you? Right.
Don't you miss your blessing.
Right. Amen. That's what he said. Glory to God. And I'm glad I listened to. No, seriously. I'm glad I listened to. Right.
I know he told you.
Okay. Trina said, other than the Brailtons, who are some other positive influences in our marriage? The Valleys, the Marlows, the Williamsons. Our tribe really values healthy relationships. The truth of it is, even though we're their pastors and their spiritual parents, and we have been married longer than any of them, we have brought things to them and said, here's what happened with us.
You got to build community.
You have to build community, right? Yeah. They are the people. Just the other week, Nitra, who's a counselor, gave Pastor Edwin an assignment. She told him that he needed to stop harassing me so much, and he needed to give me more compliments for the next 30 days.
Well, you said the harassment part. She said the compliment part.
Okay, yeah.
But I've been doing both, have I not?
Yes, you have been.
Yeah,
you have been. And so I think married couples need a tribe. And I don't think everybody, a lot of people teach this, but I don't believe it's true. And I don't believe it's scriptural. A lot of married couples don't have to just have married people. The truth of it is, you and Unica are wired a lot. A lot of times I have run a scenario by Unica that I didn't even tell her what it was. I say, if so-and-so happened, she then explains to me how she thinks about it. So then I can fix it when I come talk to you. Yeah. Because you guys are similar in a lot of ways. I don't think that. I think we need healthy people who hear from God, who believe in love, who are committed to healthy relationships. And I believe that sometimes, though, there are single people who can help you make some good choices if they have some wisdom, right? We got a couple of questions.
Here's another one. It says, so if you talk a lot and your spouse says you give too much at once, how do you practice the pause?
Okay, so
this is actually kind of used to be us a little bit because you used to see it in my eyes when you used to say you could see it.
You about to glitch. You about to glitch
because you would give me a lot of information at one time.
Okay, so this is what I think, Patrice. Edwin is my best friend, but he's not my only best friend. Mm. He is my best friend, but he's not my only best friend. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I really had to learn was what Edwin could take and what he couldn't take. Mm. Okay. And I also had to realize that, especially like when the kids were little, then you had talked all day and I had talked kid stuff all day. So I wanted to give you everything, right? So I helped.
You wanted to have adult conversation.
Yes, I wanted to have adult conversation.
When that was happening, that was during the time when you were at home with the kids.
Yes, and I needed to have adult conversation. But this is the thing that we implemented, that you actually implemented, that was a both people thing. You started taking downtime before you came home.
Yeah, I go to the park and swing.
You would go to the park and swing.
Yeah.
So you could decompress because you understood that I had stuff I needed to say. Mm-hmm. I tried to help it out by saying, what part of this do I have to tell, right?
Yeah, because you used to tell me stories like you would tell me everything that happened, like I was
because I want you to be there.
Like, you were there, and I was like, "Yo, just tell me, give me the cliff notes.
Give me the cliff
give
notes.
me the cliff notes.
Give me the cliff notes." So I think it's a two-part thing. I think it could be something like this. Okay, I want to talk to you about this, and I'm going to talk to you about this for 5 minutes. I got these things I got to tell you, and then I'll give you a break. I think it could also be that the other person needs to decompress before they come home, right? And I think it's also, I really did have to learn to look at your face and know that I needed to say more, but you needed me to stop talking.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. I think I'm better at it now, but it was just the
JR said,
what did he say?
Miss Green, he said he just wants you to give him the cliff notes.
I felt like that, but then I also realized that some of that was, and I'm not talking about you, JR, but for me, some of it was my lack of emotional intelligence, meaning that I could only be interested in what I was interested in. And as long as I was interested in it, you used to laugh and say that I was kind of like a hen. If you was telling me some good gossip that happened in the neighborhood, I could listen for a long time. But if it was just something about your emotions and how you were feeling, I was like, okay, come on, give me the highlights of it. And so what I had to learn is I had to become more emotionally intelligent so that I could focus on things that mattered to you and not just to me. So it was a combination of those.
It was a combination. So we fixed it by working on it, right?
By practice.
And I think that sometimes I also would give him a warning.
Yeah.
Like even sometimes now, I got a lot of stuff to say today, and I need you to get yourself together because I'm gonna say it
okay, I'll be home in a little bit. So what I do, I go to the park, I get on a swing, and I swing for a little bit. When I get through swinging, I come home and hear what you gotta say. And that may not be for everybody, but you gotta find your thing. You gotta find your thing that makes it work.
There was a couple other questions.
Here, one question said, "How long did it take for your relationship to go from good to great?" It's a process. We laughingly joke and say this is marriage what? 5.0. People say, what do you mean marriage 5.0? We have probably had a hard reset in our marriage. This is the 5th time in 29 years.
Well, actually, we went to 4.5, and then I just said, but babe, it's so good. I think we just need to say
it. Was a couple little things that kind of showed up. We like, we can fix this.
We can fix
and
this.
This is one of the bugs they just kind of send out and you update. And we did a little update, but we're at 5.0. And so we talk about a lot of the stuff that we went through, but it was really about, we've been married 29 years. Our first year of marriage was terrific. It was great. It was literally
it was amazing. It was days of heaven on earth.
It was days of heaven on earth. The first 365 days was amazing. But then after that, we got into a lot of things. We had a foster child who came to live with us. We adopted our oldest child. We had your sister who at some point came and stayed with us. So we had a lot of family dynamics.
I was in law school.
You was in law school.
And
I was student teaching. We had a lot of things that was happening at one time, in the second year of marriage for two people who were 22, 23 years old, did not have the tools to deal with it all. And we caused a lot of pain and injury in those 3 years. So Robert, we make it sound like it was a long time. It wasn't. It was probably the course of about 3 years that I would call it bad, if you want to call it bad. The rest of the time, year 4 through 29 has just been a work in progress.
Just doing getting the work. Better. We just do better. The work,
learning
right?
more and getting better.
Somebody said, do you do coaching and counseling? No, but you know who does? Tanitria Williams. Yep. Put your name up here. Listen, this is my go-to girl. She is the bomb. And if you live in a state where that she is licensed in, she can do counseling for you. And if you live in a state that she is not licensed in,
I'm gonna put her name up there just so you can see the name.
Listen, y'all she is the bomb. She is it. Listen, but she not magic. You still got to do the work.
You still got to do the work.
You still got to do the work. I don't care who. If Jesus counsel you, it's not gonna work if you don't do the work, right? Okay. Any other questions? We got like 2 minutes.
I'm trying to look through.
Did we miss anything?
Probably. I don't know. Girl, I don't know. I think
if you ask a question and we miss, okay, I'm more outgoing. My significant other is more serious. Is a new relationship. Is there?
It's a new relationship.
It's a new relationship. Is there hope of getting him to loosen up?
Come on, talk about how we used to be.
If he wants to,
right?
If he wants to,
right? If he wants to.
But the truth of it is,
but he didn't just. No, that's the thing we were talking about. He didn't just get serious though, right?
He's been serious.
He's been serious. He was serious.
Been serious,
right?
I think that probably the best thing about us is we just let each other be who they are.
Because remember, one of those tools, you cannot control or make another person change.
Because
I'm gonna always be more silly than you are.
Yes, I'm gonna always be more serious.
I have learned to be more serious, and you have learned to be more silly. But on the sliding scale of serious and silliness, I'm gonna always fall to the more silly side, and you're gonna always fall to the more serious.
Absolutely. And I'm always going to be more outgoing than you at a social event that's not your tribe.
Because it'd be real people-y out there.
It'd be real people-y. And so one of the things that we do, Bobby, is that we have a thing that, like, Pastor Edwin knows that if it's a tribe thing, I can get him to go anytime. Okay, right? But if it's another time, right, then I gotta negotiate for which things matter the most. That's why he appreciates people like Keyshawn. He appreciates people like Yanika, who will be like, "Ooh, you can go with them." Like, literally, that is how. But I don't try to make him do that. Like, but here's another thing.
Except a couple times a year, you ask me to go to certain things. So I'm like, okay, you got 4 things in the course of a year that you can ask me to go to that you know I don't want to go to.
Yes.
And because you don't mess with me all them other times, I go and have a great attitude. I try to go and have a great attitude, at least when we get there. Maybe not
be talking smack in the car, but you have a great attitude when we get there.
Have a good attitude when we get there.
Well, and the other thing is that, like, Pastor Edwin really likes movies. Yeah. You really like movies. So pretty much if there is a movie I want to see, even if it's not something you want to see, you will take me because I don't really like movies so much. And then you and like the other day, he went to see The Equalizer 3. Well, I saw the previews, and you may not know this about me, but I'm a dreamer. And so I can get really, if I see really gory, if it's gory, if it's demonic, if it's any kind of stuff, I dream about it. And I can do that for several nights. And I saw from the previews, even though I had seen Equalizer 1 and 2, I knew that Equalizer 3 was outside of my skill. And I just said, hey, babe, I can't go to this, right? I think I don't know. I think you have to I think if you're attracted to a person for a reason, you have to let that person be that person, right?
Yeah. So 2 things. Here's a question first, but let me say this to Robert. Robert, hit me up on Messenger. I don't necessarily do advice sessions like that, but I love building relationship with men, right? So hit me up on if you're on Facebook Messenger, hit me up on Messenger. Let's talk. Let's get to know each other. Most of the guys who I have mentored would tell you they probably learned way more from me from just talking and hanging out than any sit down session I've ever done or taught. They may have learned some of that stuff that way, but really I'm a relational kind of person when it comes to that. So hit me up on Messenger. Would love to talk to you. Love to talk to you.
Oh, Angel, this is such a great question.
That's why I put that one up there.
Is it better to take your time and date, or is it better to get married and work out the kinks?
It's a great question.
Here's the answer I would say. What did the Lord say?
Yeah.
What did the Lord say? I think here's the thing.
Because can I be honest and say, just
what?
From my own perspective?
Go ahead and say it.
I'm so glad. Oh, no, I'm saying, Jesus, gonna punch me on the live?
Just on your thigh right here.
I'm so glad that we got married and chose to work our stuff out while married. Here's why. If we experienced year 2, 3, and 4 dating, I don't think
we wouldn't have made it.
I don't think we'd made it. It'd have been not being married, not having a child. It'd have been too easy. And we were both, our personalities were such. We had a couple things going for us. And let's just be honest, right? A lot of folks said we wasn't going to stay married. A lot of folk in my hometown and a lot of folk here on the hill said that we just knew each other 6 months, 13 days. We ain't had no business getting no married, and we wasn't going to make it. And me and you both have enough of that dog in us that if you tell us we can't do something, baby, we going to do it. So if we hadn't been married, it'd have been too easy to just chunk the deuce.
It would have.
I'm not answering that question for you, but it's a great question.
This is what I have seen. I have seen that a lot of people who date long term, when they finally get married, break up.
They do. They be dating like 5 years,
17 years,
and be married for 3, and then break, and then get divorced.
17 years, get married for 3, and then they break up. I don't know what the science is about that. I guess this is the thing for me.
There's a great attack on marriage.
There is a great attack on marriage.
I used to jokingly preach all the time. There's no attack on the shack.
When you
just shacking, the devil don't care nothing about
you just playing house, the devil don't care.
But when you come into covenant, he wants to destroy that covenant relationship.
But I think the other thing too is that this is what I would say, because you're a woman. I didn't have to ask Edwin to marry me.
Oh no.
You were the first person that brought up marriage.
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask him to marry me. So if a man isn't asking, isn't.
And the only reason I waited till May is because I had to save up some money to get the ring.
Yes.
But I knew I wanted to marry you early. Guys know. I say all the time, guys know within the first 90 days whether you're the one or not. And guys hate when I say that, but it's true. You know in the first 90 days whether they're the one. Now, you may be scared. You may make up a bunch of reasons. And a lot of times what dudes are doing is they're holding on to you to see if anything else better is going to come along. And if they get convinced that nothing else better is coming along, then they'll go ahead and marry you. But most dudes know in those first 90 days what his intentions are.
All right, next Soul Shift event, Pastor Edwin gonna do a session. There we go, because that's where I can get him to do it. Okay, we hope y'all had a great time tonight. Listen, this is what we would like you to do. If you enjoyed this, can you post about it on your social media, and can you tag the page? It's Edwin and Sean Strickland on Facebook.
Yeah.
Can you tag the page?
Facebook.com/CampStrick. It takes you there.
We really do this. People ask us, why don't we charge for this? We're really doing this as a seed into your life.
Yeah.
We really are doing this as a seed into your life. We believe if we have healthy people, we have healthy relationships. If we have healthy relationships, we have healthy towns, schools, churches, communities, and worlds. So how are we going to change the world? One healthy person at a time, one healthy relationship at a time. So we do this as a seed to sow into your life. Mm-hmm. We got up to 120 people tonight. Thank you guys so much. October 10th is the next Relationships 101.
Mark your calendar. Go ahead and mark your calendar so you don't forget. October 10th.
All right. So listen, we just want to pray over your relationships as we go. Father, I thank you that it is your will for us to have good relationships, whether those relationships are marriage relationships, family relationships, friend relationships. That is your desire for us. So first, we ask that you would open up our understanding to what we can do to be good, healthy people in the relationships that we are in. That you would help us to learn to communicate effectively, to resolve any issues, to resolve any trauma, and that you would attach us with people who have the same goals and the same heart for healthy relationships. And we thank you for it now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And remember, if you didn't get a chance to share the broadcast, you still can. There are people who would love to hear this. If it's been a blessing to you, then you be a blessing to someone else and share it. Tag some friends, some family members, put it in groups where you have permission. Share this information. Let's get that there so we can have more and more healthy relationships.
Kim Nika said this, so I want to answer this. She said it's a challenge to date somebody who doesn't want to grow up. Then don't.
Then don't.
Because if you date somebody who doesn't want to grow up and then you get engaged to somebody who doesn't want to grow up, you're going to be married to somebody who doesn't want to grow up. And one of the fastest way to change their attraction in a relationship is to feel like you're dating your child. So don't. If someone doesn't want to grow up,
don't even make it a challenge.
Don't make it a challenge. It's not a challenge.
Don't make it a
because
challenge.
if you don't want to grow up, then I don't want to be in a relationship with you because I know where this is going to end. And again, you're a woman. Remember what I said. Any man who is picking you wants to grow up. Even if he's making mistakes, you can see the attempt for him to grow up. If you don't see none of that work, don't let him waste your time, honey. Don't let him date you to death.
Don't do it.
Don't let him argue. And this it's that time. You got to watch out for male and female.
It's getting cold.
It's getting cold.
It's starting to get darker early. They looking for a place to stay.
Them homosexuals. Don't let them get you caught up, guys. All right. We love you. Have a great evening.
Y'all take care.
All right. Bye-bye.